Welcome, listener. Today's deep dive, it takes us somewhere pretty radical.
Yeah,
We're looking at familiar scripture, but through this, well, this Gnostic Christian lens.
that's right.
And we're dealing with sources that really challenge, fundamentally challenge, the most central event in Christianity, the crucifixion.
Absolutely. Our mission today is really to unpack that Gnostic understanding. We're moving past the traditional idea of sacrifice.
Okay.
And we're drawing on texts mentioned in the sources, like the Gospel of Thomas and especially the Acts of John, which is very vivid.
Right.
The goal is to really get the core insight, how the crucifixion gets reframed. It shifts, from death and redemption.
The revelation.
To revelation, exactly. A kind of cosmic moment of transcendence.
Okay, so let's dive into that. It's a huge claim. Now, the sources, they start somewhere maybe surprising. They agreed there was a crucifixion.
Yes, they affirm that. Yes, there was. The sources state clearly.
But here's where it gets really, really interesting. These Gnostic texts claim, point blank, that the soul of Christ was not in the body, not on the cross. The divine spark, the light,
Yeah.
it wasn't actually there.
And that's the absolute pivot point for all of Gnostic thought on this. Because if the true Christ, the Logos, was an emanation from the pleroma.
Okay, and maybe we should clarify pleroma for anyone not familiar.
Good point.
Yeah.
The pleroma is the Gnostic term for the fullness of the true divine realm. Completely separate, totally beyond this material world we experience.
Right, the realm of pure spirit, essentially.
Exactly. So if the true Christ came from that fullness, well, he couldn't be trapped or killed by matter. It just wouldn't make sense in their cosmology.
Yeah, if the soul wasn't there.
Then the massive question becomes, what was crucified?
Right.
And the Gnostic answer is pretty startling. They say the body on the cross was a tangible shadow.
A tangible shadow.
Yeah, an illusion, something you could see, you could touch. It could even appear to suffer. But it wasn't the full reality of Christ.
It's like a projection. A veil of flesh shaped for this world, as the sources put it.
Precisely. The crucifixion happened, yes, but it happened to this physical projection, not the divine essence.
Okay, a projection. Or maybe like a kind of spiritual puppet show for the world. But why? Why stage this elaborate, painful illusion?
Well, that takes us right into the core of Gnostic cosmology. Their view of this world, they see the material world, the one we live in, as fundamentally flawed.
Flawed how?
Created not by the ultimate perfect God, the source of the pleroma, but by a lesser being, an ignorant, maybe even arrogant creator figure.
The demiurge.
The demiurge, exactly, the blind architect of this material realm.
Okay.
And because the demiurge made this world of matter and suffering, its rules dominate here. Physical rules, rules of pain.
And the sources describe those rules pretty vividly.
They do. Under the demiurge, suffering is spectacle. That's a key phrase. Pain is proof. And crucially, blood is currency.
Wow. Blood is currency.
Yeah. So if the Christ, the true light, wanted to interact with this world, wanted to make a point within this system, he had to use its language, even if that language was inherently flawed, an illusion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He had to play by the demiurge's rules, at least outwardly. So the cross, in this Gnostic view, becomes the ultimate altar of illusion.
So the illusion of suffering was necessary to sort of satisfy the rules of this flawed world.
Yeah.
But the true light remained untouched.
Untouchable. Which makes the Gnostic Christ fundamentally uncrucifiable.
Right.
And the texts really go hard on this. They aim to shatter that traditional picture of agony and sacrifice.
Yeah.
The sources are blunt. The true Christ did not scream.
Okay.
He did not bleed. He did not die. It completely strips the cross of its traditional sacrificial meaning.
And this is where that quote from the Acts of John comes in, the one that's just,
No.
well, mind-blowing.
It really is. It's the voice of Christ speaking directly to John, even as the crucifixion is happening, saying,
Wow.
I am not he who is upon the cross.
Whoa. That's,
Whoa.
yeah, theological dynamite's the right word for it. So if the source of light, the true Christ, is standing beside the cross,
Then who is on it? Who's playing the victim? You mentioned the shadow, the semblance.
that's what was crucified. This projection of the Logos into matter. Think of it like a temporary vessel, or maybe a highly sophisticated divine hologram.
Okay, a hologram.
This form, this shadow, entered the illusion specifically to break it from within.
Like a kind of spiritual Trojan horse. Or like a perfectly designed piece of code entering a faulty system to expose it.
That's a great analogy. Exactly. The true Christ, the emanation from the pleroma, is the truth that stands beside illusion. He's not bound by the spectacle. He's not subject to death. He is the word before words, before matter.
That idea of divine power as like a superior operating system. It helps grasp the sheer scale of what they're proposing.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that modern parallel the sources brought up.
Ah, yes, the technology comparison.
Yeah, look at what AI can do now, right? With just a few algorithms, like the source says, creating convincing fake realities, deep fakes.
It's a useful thought experiment if we, with our limited understanding, can project these convincing illusions.
Imagine what the Logos, the ultimate divine intelligence, could project.
Exactly. Imagine what Jesus could achieve. Anything way beyond our imagination. Projecting a shadow self that could convincingly appear to suffer. For the Logos, that might be, well, relatively simple.
It makes a strange kind of sense. The ultimate reality projected a necessary temporary shadow to interact with our reality.
But, okay, if this shadow was so convincing, so real-seeming, that raises a question.
Why didn't people recognize him, even his closest followers, right after the crucifixion? If the real Christ was just somewhere else, why all the confusion in the resurrection accounts?
And that takes us to the aftermath. The Gnostic reading of those post-resurrection stories is maybe even more revealing than their view of the cross itself.
How so? Traditionally, the confusion is put down to grief, shock, maybe his appearance changed.
Sure, but the Gnostic explanation is, well, more spiritual, focused on perception. They suggest the reason the disciples were confused, why they failed to recognize him initially. It wasn't about clothes or grief. It was because the veil had lifted.
The veil lifted, meaning...
The shadow crucified was gone. It had served its purpose and dissolved. But the disciples, still human, still kind of trapped in the material worldview.
They were still looking for the man, the physical person they knew.
Exactly. They were looking for the vessel, the illusion they'd followed for years.
But that illusion wasn't there anymore. What stood before them now was
the truth behind the veil, the pure Logos, the light that can't be nailed down, the unveiled reality.
which they weren't prepared to see.
Not immediately. And that's why those moments of recognition in the gospel, seen through this Gnostic lens, aren't just about identifying a person. They're moments of sudden, radical insight.
A breakthrough.
A burst of gnosis. Spiritual knowing. Think about that famous story, The Road to Emmaus, Luke 24.
Right, the two disciples walking with him, talking with him for miles.
And they have no idea who he is, not until they break bread together.
Traditional interpretations focus on the ritual, the breaking of bread.
And that's important, but for the Gnostics, the absolute key is the moment of perception. The scripture says their eyes were opened and they knew him.
And he vanished out of their sight.
Right. And he didn't vanish to be mysterious or evasive. He vanished because his work there was done. He had fulfilled his unveiling.
Yeah.
The illusion's purpose was complete. The truth had been recognized. That moment of gnosis happened.
Yeah.
And so the divine light just stepped back out of the material context and its role was played.
It's the ultimate aha moment, but on a cosmic scale.
Exactly.
And that feeling, that sudden clarity when the illusion just falls away, that connects to this really striking idea the sources mention, the laughter of revelation.
Yeah, it sounds almost disrespectful at first, doesn't it? Christ laughing.
A little bit, yeah.
But this laughter isn't cruel. It's not mocking people. It's described as cosmic clarity. It's the sound the soul makes when it wakes up and realizes that the big, scary thing it feared, the suffering, the death, the power of the world, was never real. Not in the ultimate sense. It's the sound of pure, liberated understanding.
And there's that quote the sources give, capturing this perfectly. Christ saying,
They think they have killed me, but I am not there.
it's this feeling of being utterly beyond the reach of the illusion, even while the illusion plays out,
That completely shifts the focus, doesn't it? Away from worshiping suffering.
towards seeking fundamental truth, understanding the nature of reality itself.
Okay, so let's talk about the so what. If we put all this together, what does it mean for the believer, for the follower?
It's profound. The Gnostic Christ, in this view, does not die for sin.
Okay.
He awakens the spark. The divine spark that Gnostics believe is already inside every human soul, just covered up, asleep.
So, not a figure of sacrifice redeeming us from outside.
But a figure of illumination reminding us what's already inside. He doesn't redeem the fallen in the traditional sense. He reminds the veiled. Reminds them of their true nature.
Yes. He allows the veil, that shadow self, to be crucified, to go through the spectacle, so that the truth, the real light, could stand revealed beside it. It's about transcendence, getting beyond the illusion, not just redemption within it.
The cross wasn't the end, it was the threshold, the necessary demonstration of the escape route.
Precisely. A boundary crossed to show freedom was possible.
People say, okay, if the true Christ just transcended matter, stepped away from the illusion, what about the physical body? the one taken down from the cross, placed in the tomb.
Yeah,
That leads us, inevitably, to one of the most mysterious and debated objects in the world,
indeed. The Shroud of Turin.
which presents a huge puzzle for science, but the Gnostic view offers a startlingly different interpretation.
It does. In this framework, the body, wrapped in that linen cloth, it was never meant to remain.
Because it was a veil, the shadow.
Exactly. It was temporary, designed to dissolve. And the sources emphasize how it dissolved, not with a decay, but with light.
So the tomb wasn't a grave in the normal sense, not waiting for resuscitation. It was more like,
A chrysalis, the sources say, a holding space for transformation, for departure.
and this connects to the scientific puzzles around the shroud, the image formation.
Right, because science struggles to explain how that image got onto the cloth. There's no paint, no dye. The leading theories often involve intense energy.
Specifically radiation, or a sudden burst of ultraviolet light, as the sources mention.
Yes, a burst of energy seemingly coming from the body itself, not applied externally.
Okay.
And in the Gnostic reading, that burst of light is the moment of departure. It's not death, not resurrection in the usual sense. It's the exit of illusion, an explosive release as the shadow dissolved back into energy.
So the image on the cloth
A
is...
signature of transcendence. That's the Gnostic framing. A
Yeah.
burn mark left by the veil as it tore. It's a relic, yes, but a relic of revelation, not primarily of suffering.
Wow. That completely reframes the shroud. Not an image of agony, but an image of explosive release. Brilliance.
Brilliance and rupture, as the sources put it. The shroud becomes this prophetic artifact, speaking of the moment the illusion broke. The idea is the shadow could not remain for burial. It didn't decay because it wasn't subject to those laws in the first place.
It just dissolved in light.
While the true Christ, the Logos, had already stepped away into light, into silence, back to the pleroma, the linen just caught the echo, the scorch mark of that transition.
What really stands out to me, wrapping this up, is just how fundamentally this shifts everything. We've moved the crucifixion event from being this fixed point of historical sacrifice to something more like a transcendent, maybe even ongoing moment of potential revelation. The cross wasn't the end point, it was the threshold.
The demonstration.
And the veil wasn't torn by nails ultimately, but by laughter, by cosmic clarity.
And if that's true, if the real Christ, the Logos, is the standing presence, always there beside the illusion, think about what that means for our own perception, for how we see our reality.
It shifts the spiritual goal, doesn't it, from seeking forgiveness
To actively seeking gnosis, that inner knowing, waking up the divine spark that's already within you.
So the final thought for you, the listener, has to be this. If the spectacle of suffering really is the currency of this world, the demiurge's world, what spectacles are you caught up in right now?
In your life, in the news, in your own fears.
What illusions need to be exposed by the quiet truth that might be standing right beside them? What are you afraid of that maybe, just maybe, isn't ultimately real?
The Gnostics would say the veil is thin, the word is near, you just have to learn to see past the shadow.